The year is 2025. Donald J. Trump once again occupies the Oval Office. His second term, however, has brought with it a chilling specter, the specter of political interference in the very heart of American justice. The Department of Justice, designed as a bastion of impartiality, finds itself under a cloud. The independence of investigations, the very bedrock of a fair judicial system, appears to be eroding. This isn't just about one president or one party, it's about the soul of American democracy. Across the nation, whispers turn to worried murmurs. Critics of the administration point to a string of decisions emanating from the Justice Department. These decisions, they argue, reek of political motivation. From seemingly targeted lawsuits to the abrupt dismissal of ongoing cases, a pattern emerges. It's a pattern that suggests a dangerous blurring of the lines between the executive branch and the independent pursuit of justice. The unease deepened when reports surfaced about demands being made for the names of FBI agents. These weren't just any agents. These were the agents who had been involved in investigating the January 6th Capitol riot. The administration's justification? To ensure the investigations were conducted properly. But for many, this explanation rang hollow. It felt more like an attempt to intimidate and silence those who dared to investigate the former president and his allies. Further fueling these anxieties was the Justice Department's decision to file a lawsuit against New York Attorney General Letitia James. This wasn't just any legal challenge. James had been a thorn in Trump's side for years, successfully prosecuting a fraud case against the Trump Organization. The timing of the lawsuit, coming as it did amidst heightened scrutiny of the Justice Department, struck many as more than a mere coincidence. It felt like retaliation, plain and simple. The sense of unease surrounding the Justice Department wasn't confined to those who had opposed Trump's presidency. The case of Eric Adams, the Democratic mayor of New York City, served as a stark reminder that the administration's reach extended even to those within its own perceived political sphere. Adams, who had enjoyed a cooperative relationship with the administration on issues like immigration enforcement, suddenly found himself facing a federal criminal investigation. The charges against Adams, stemming from allegations of campaign finance violations, were serious. Yet, just as abruptly as the investigation had begun, it was dropped. The Justice Department, citing Adams's cooperation with federal immigration authorities, ordered the dismissal of the case. This decision, however, came at a steep price. Danielle Sassoon, the Manhattan U.S. attorney overseeing the case, resigned in protest. In her resignation letter, Sassoon alleged a quid pro quo, claiming that the dismissal was a politically motivated move designed to reward Adams for his loyalty. Sassoon wasn't alone in her outrage. Her resignation triggered a wave of departures from the Justice Department's Public Integrity Section, the very unit responsible for investigating corruption within the government. At least 7 high-ranking officials walked away, their departures drawing uncomfortable parallels to the infamous Saturday Night Massacre of 1973, when President Richard Nixon fired Archibald Cox, the special prosecutor investigating the Watergate scandal. The message was clear. When it came to protecting itself and its allies, the administration would not hesitate to interfere in the pursuit of justice, even if it meant sacrificing the integrity of the Justice Department itself. The resignation sent shockwaves through the legal community and beyond. Critics decried the administration's actions as a blatant assault on the rule of law. The very foundations of American justice, they argued, were being shaken. Even some within the administration expressed unease, albeit privately. The question on everyone's mind was, how far would this go? In the wake of the Adams case dismissal and the ensuing resignations, Attorney General Pam Bondi found herself at the center of a firestorm. Bondi, who had assumed the role of the nation's top law enforcement official with promises of upholding the Justice Department's independence, now faced accusations of being complicit in its politicization. Her initial response did little to quell the growing storm. Instead of addressing the concerns head-on, Bondi doubled down, defending the decision to drop the charges against Adams. Bondi's defense, however, rang hollow to many. Her insistence that the decision was based solely on the merits of the case and not on political considerations was met with skepticism. The timing, the circumstances, and the subsequent resignations painted a very different picture, one in which political expediency trumped the impartial pursuit of justice. Meanwhile, as the controversy raged, Trump himself remained characteristically defiant. In a series of fiery public statements and late-night social media posts, the former president denied any involvement in the Adams case. He dismissed the allegations of political interference as fake news and a witch hunt orchestrated by his political opponents. His words, however, did little to assuage the concerns of those who feared that the Justice Department was being transformed into a tool of political retribution. The damage, however, had been done. The resignations, the allegations of quid pro quo, and the administration's own defiant response had cast a long shadow over the Justice Department. The perception, fair or not, was that the scales of justice were no longer balanced, tilted instead in favor of those who enjoyed the administration's favor and against those who dared to challenge it. As if to confirm the worst fears of those who saw a pattern of political interference, the Justice Department took another controversial step. Attorney General Bondi announced the creation of a weaponization working group. This group, she explained, would be tasked with investigating what the administration perceived as politically motivated prosecutions. On the surface, the idea of investigating potential prosecutorial misconduct might have seemed reasonable. However, the devil, as always, was in the details. The working group's mandate appeared curiously one-sided. Its focus, it soon became clear, was not on ensuring fairness and impartiality in the justice system as a whole. Instead, it seemed laser-focused on examining cases that had been brought against Trump and his allies. Conspicuously absent from the group's purview were any investigations into potential wrongdoing by those within the administration's orbit. This selective focus only served to reinforce the growing belief that the Justice Department was being weaponized for political ends. Adding to the sense of unease was the lawsuit filed by the Justice Department against the state of New York over its law allowing undocumented immigrants to obtain driver's licenses. The administration argued that the law interfered with federal immigration enforcement, but critics saw it as yet another example of the Justice Department being used to punish political opponents. New York, after all, was a Democratic stronghold and a frequent target of Trump's ire. The man at the helm of many of these controversial decisions was Emil Bove, a former personal lawyer to Trump, who now served as the acting No. 2 official at the Justice Department. Bove, a loyalist with no prior experience in government, had been installed by Trump despite concerns about his qualifications and potential conflicts of interest. It was Bove who had ordered the dismissal of the Adams case, and it was Bove who had demanded the names of FBI agents involved in the January 6th investigation. His presence at the Justice Department, along with the administration's actions, raised profound questions about the future of American justice.